You're listening to the Scarf Bagara War, part of the Talksport Fan Network, and charity partners with Mentel, for county fans, by county fans.
Good evening and welcome to episode 18 of the Courtyard Club Call. I am Jimmy Harmer and I'm joined by Mr. Daniel Culverwell as ever, my partner in crime, my super sidekick. And today we will be discussing the defeat, the 2-1 defeat to Lincoln City. So today we also have a fan guest. So this is what we're doing now. We're getting an extra person to have a chat about the games with us. And our fan guest today is, Dan, who is it?
Steve Bardsley.
Gleeson! It's a cracker! Stephen Gleeson! What a beauty!
Absolutely seamless, that, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely enjoying that backstage. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. So, Steve, you were on the Wednesday night pod a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
With Russ and Dan, was it? I think.
Yeah, and Andy was on as well for part of the show as well.
Of course, Andy was on as well. Yeah. So you're familiar with what we do here. We just talk shit about county, basically. So great to have you on. First question: did you go to the game?
I did. Yeah, I went on the coach from SK6 coaches yesterday, so had a good day out for the majority of the day.
Nice. Okay.
Was it the posh
game?
Sorry, I was at the game. Yeah, a local game for me from East Anglia. The boys have recorded a vlog, as Russ likes to call it, not a vlog. So the boys have recorded that, and that's gone out onto YouTube. If you haven't watched it, then obviously please do. So yeah, localish game, still a 3-hour drive for us though. But then everything from Lowestoft is a 3-hour drive just to start your journey, to be honest. So yeah, we went. We got home for 8 o'clock, so I can't complain.
Not too bad at all. That. So let's start with. So I've clipped up some of the highlights and the lowlights, I guess what you can say. So this is about a 1-minute video. So we'll listen to this, and then we'll have a chat about the game.
Ball's in a bit of space. Dinks a brilliant ball in for Alafi. What a goal that is for County. Powell's delivery, Alafi's finish, and after 8 minutes, County lead 1-0.
County, Adai given away from the back.
Careless from Adai. Derrick invited forward. He'll play this into the box for House. 1-1. Adai with the mistake, playing out.
Barry's through on goal. It's a coming together. And then the goalkeeper's also in the mix as well.
I think Ruffin's caught him just outside the box. It's probably not a penalty, but it could well be a free kick on the edge of the box, but he's not given that. So can County make the extra man count from the dead ball? They pulled off. Dear me. Given away by Bailey, straight from the corner. He's passed it to Cadamarteri, who's swift and he's on the counter-attack and he could make it 2-1. He's clipped it wide of the post. Odin Bailey, you're a lucky boy. Here's the corner kick, and there's the goal. Headed home by Cadamarteri. Completely unmarked, and Lincoln lead 2-1.
Sorry. So that was it, basically. A bit of a Halloween horror show, I think I would say. Lots of incidents in the game, plenty for us to go at. So, Steve, how did you sort of feel when you saw the team lineup? So, Dan, if you can bob the team lineup up. So, yeah, I mean, we started with Corey. In nets. We played Torre at left wing back, then Sam Hughes and Ethan Pye and Callum Connolly, like a back three. Fev seemed to be the right wing back, Nick Powell and Lewis Bate in the centre of midfield with Odin Bailey just in front of them. And then we had Louis Barry and Tanto up front. So when you saw that team, how did you think we'd do?
I thought the team was okay. I was a bit surprised Horsfall wasn't in the team lineup, to be honest. That was the kind of only surprise for me. I expected Hughes to be in there. I thought after he had a good game on Tuesday against Northampton, so I thought he might stay in the team, but I was surprised that Horsfall was dropped. Well, you can't really call it dropped, can you? Because he didn't play on Tuesday, but I really expected him to come straight back in. After that, the rest of the team, yeah, it's reasonably balanced. I wasn't surprised to see Alafi and Barry up front, particularly with the pace the guys have got. But yeah, and I was glad to see Powell start again because he'd been playing excellent. So just the omission of Horsfall, really, that was the only real surprise.
Yeah, I had 10 out of 11 on Fan Hub, and that was what I sort of preempted that Horsfall would go back into that starting 11. But I suppose if we listen to what Challoner says about opportunities comes for players, and once they've got the shirt, it's theirs to lose, basically. And on hindsight, he sort of kept to his word. What he's been telling the players: you get into the team, you perform, you keep your spot. So yeah, I got it wrong, but at the end of the day, in hindsight, it's not a big surprise that he's actually kept that the same starting 11, obviously from the Northampton game midweek.
I think it was a bit of a lesson as well to the rest of the squad. The fact that, look, Horsfall did get one silly booking and then obviously got sent off, and it's like, look, guys, if you do get yourself sent off, and as you said, Dan, if the person who's coming in does well, you're not getting straight back into the team, no matter who you are. I mean, we'd all probably agree that Horsfall and Pye have been two of our better players this season. And maybe it was just a little bit of a nod to the rest of the squad to say, look, this is what we're going to do moving forward. Yeah. Okay, then. You mentioned, Steve, about Powell obviously starting as well. You're pleased to see him.
Yeah.
I make no bones about this, but he is 100% my favourite player. I think he's absolutely brilliant, and he played amazing for the first sort of 10 or 15 minutes of the game before going off injured, obviously. Dan, do you want to talk us through that first goal that we scored?
Yeah, I mean, it's come from a set piece that we've reworked. It's everything about it. We've recycled the ball from a set piece. It's come to Nick Powell, sort of like 30 yards out. Really, he's carried the ball 5 yards, and then he's just with the outside of his right foot. He's just basically bananaed it. It's gone right across the goal. And Tanto's there basically unmarked just to sort of knock it past the goalkeeper. And I think that goal for me just shows you just the class of Powell, really. Nobody else I don't think nobody else on that team or in that squad could play that ball that he played. And I think, like you say, that was the turning point when he went off injured for me. That was when we didn't look the same team.
Steve, could you tell from the way that he went down that it was a match-ending injury, or were you surprised when you saw him go off?
Yeah, he went down and he just didn't get back up straight away. And you could see he looked, even though we were behind the goal and it was quite a distance away, you could tell he was going off, and that was it. I was gutted.
It was a bit weird because there was a Lincoln player literally a minute before that went down, and you think, oh, there's nothing wrong with him, but then he ended up getting substituted off as well. And then, like I say, Powell went down, and it was one of them where I didn't even realise he'd gone down, to be honest. And and then it sort of like looked serious, and you see Norwood then taking his jacket off, and you think, that's Powell's game over and done with.
It was just that little stretch that he tried to toe poke the ball away from a Lincoln player. I think that just slightly hyperextended his hamstring. And we know that I think he has had issues with his hamstrings in the past, hasn't he? So I'm sure he'd done all his warm-ups and things. But yeah, it was really disappointing to see him go off, because we've said it on the podcast before, as good a player as Norwood probably is, and I'm not convinced he's a midfielder in a midfield two. I think that's where we're struggling when we have him in with Bate. He doesn't give you the same physicality that Powell gives you, and Powell is actually very good at defending as well, whether it's headers and in fact they're a big team as well. I mean, Dave said in his pre-match, didn't he, that they're going to cause us problems from set pieces and corners. I think in the first 10 or 15 minutes, we gave seemed like 5 or 6 corners on the trot. And I'm thinking, guys, what are you doing? This is a team that love corners and sort of swinging the ball across. So,
and they had a great chance, didn't they, in the first couple of minutes? They should have buried, really.
Yeah, they did, and they also, I mean, Lewis Bate almost gave them a chance as well. And I know Adai was taken off at half time, and we can talk about that later. But he still made a couple of really decent stops in that first half. But I guess that's what you expect your goalkeeper to do. Okay, then. So, should we just sort of move on to the equaliser then? So Steve, did you think there was any danger when Adai had the ball at his feet?
No, not at all. And it was, it was just a poor pass, wasn't it? Straight to their player. When I was at the game, I thought, I felt like it was completely his fault. I know he gave the ball away, and I thought he's just caused us that goal, which he did. But then watching it back on the footage, I was surprised how poor the defending was when the cross came in, and that really surprised me. I think it might have been Connolly and Hughes kind of not picking up a player and not knowing which one should have picked him up, and it was just poor. It was poor defending. So even though it was a mistake from Corey Adai, the guy still had the ball 30 odd yards out. It shouldn't have been a goal from there. But still we defended poorly and allowed it. So for me, it was a double mistake. It was, he kind of instigated it with the bad pass, but then we didn't defend it. We really didn't defend well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when you look at the highlights, you can understand, obviously, when you listen to Charlie's post-match interview, he's furious. I think that's probably one of the angriest ones we've had off him for a long while. And like you say, it's because, like I say, when you look at the game itself, yes, they were the home team. It's their job to be front foot and stuff like that. But it's a game I think we come away from. I think we should have got something out of that game, and we've, both goals are down to defending errors or opportunities. And like you say, yes, he's made a mistake, but there's a chance to stop the cross, and then when the cross comes in, just stop. An unmarked header in the box is just absolutely, like you say, criminal. Could Corey done something a bit better as well? He's a big frame. Yes, it was close to him, but still, I think he could have done something a bit better. Every cross that comes into the box, I think most fans will be going, we want Corey to come out and catch that or punch it because of his size. But yeah, it's you can understand Dave Challoner's frustrations. And obviously that I don't think that changing room would have been an environment for a quiet time at halftime for sure.
He did say in his post-match, actually, that he could have taken any number of players off at halftime. And I'm glad you picked that up, Steve, about the fact it's not just Corey's fault there. There were two opportunities for us to not concede that goal. The first one was Norwood and Torre allowing the cross to come in. The guy must have taken 3 or 4 touches before picking his spot, basically. And then Connolly loses his man. He tracks their number 9 and loses the guy that actually ended up heading the ball in. So it was an absolute calamity goal. And I think it really hit the players quite hard as well. Because I don't know how many times we've done it this season, but it feels like we've gone 1-0 up on quite a few occasions, only to get pegged back on quite a few occasions as well. Great. Okay, then. Looking at the first half stats, Lincoln were on top in pretty much every single metric. They had 51 to our 49% possession, and I was listening to the commentary from the Lincoln radio guys, and they were saying that I think their average possession for the season was something like 35%. So they're not a team that is used to having the ball. I think ours was like 55% for all like the 11 previous games. So for them to be 50-50 with us was disappointing. Their XG was 1.31 to our 0.47. They had 10 shots in that first half to our 2, with 4 on target, and we only had 1 on target. Pass passes were similar, 141 to 142. Both had sort of 75% accurate passes. So that doesn't seem to be a massive issue from a stats point of view. But Steve, we didn't seem to be finding our players, and the players that normally look after the ball, Lewis Bate, a prime example of that, seemed to have a bit of an off day.
He did. But quite interestingly, I mean, I thought he was quiet really for him first half, and I don't know if that's the number of games he's played or what. No idea. But I spoke to a Lincoln fan on the way out, and they were like, "Why did your number 4 come off at half time? He was a real problem." So it was kind of quite interesting to see it from the opposing view. They were pleased when he went off. So maybe we've set standards for Lewis Bate because he has been playing so well. But he wasn't top of his game yesterday for me.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one because, like I said, when Powell was on the pitch, he likes to he'll take the ball no matter what position he's in. If he's got a player on his back or 2 around him, he'll take the ball. If he's gets sort of like kicked, he'll go down for the free kick. He'll play the free kick, but he also has that strength to hold the player off and find the pass where. Bate at times, he doesn't seem to want that ball as like what Nick Powell does. You know, if he's been marked out the way, yes, he finds a position to receive the ball in, but he won't take it in them areas where he's been marked and, you know, crowded out a little bit. So it's a bit of a weird one because, like I say, before their equaliser, obviously you've had the first penalty shout for Louis Barry just before that. So, you know, you had sort of two really important sort of phases there where the momentum, I think if we don't lose Nick Powell, I think we go and win that game. And I think if we get one of the 2 penalty shouts and we go 2-0 up, or 2-0 up after the first penalty shout, or we go into half-time 2-1, I still think we go on and win that game. The first penalty shout where Louis Barry's gone down the left-hand side and then he's sort of cut in.
It's not a penalty, though, is it? Let's face it.
It's not a penalty, but
it
it's a foul. I think there was a hand on his back and his shoulder, and I think he was pushed outside the area, and he's falling in. I think it is a foul. It's for me, it was one of them ones, and I thought that if you're not going to give a penalty, referee, which fair enough, that's the right decision, then you need to book Louis Barry for diving. You know, if you're saying it's not a fact, otherwise pull it back outside the area and give the foul.
Well, should we talk about the second penalty incident then? So I played that on that little montage of highlights, and I thought it was really interesting how John Kieran and Sam Byrne had a completely different view of it to what I had of it. I thought he got fouled twice. He got fouled by the covering defender, tackle from behind, didn't get the ball, and the goalkeeper came rushing off his line and absolutely took him out. Similar to what happened with Powell in the game against, I can't remember who it was, against Charlton when we got the penalty. Keeper got nowhere near the ball and he just completely and utterly took him out when he was on the floor, having been taken out by the defender. Stonewall penalty for me. What did you feel in the stands, Steve? Did you think it was a penalty from your view?
Yeah, at the time, absolutely 100%. We thought it was a penalty. We were going mad. We thought it should have potentially been a red card in there as well, potentially. I've since kind of watched it back quite a lot of times and trying to kind of work out what happened. I think the first tackle by their defender, when he doesn't get the ball, that's for certain, and he does look to get the man, but I think that's on the outside of the box, I think. But then, like you say, I spotted that with the keeper as well. The keeper comes through him as well. And at no point does that ball change direction. It just trickles down. So for me, it was a penalty. And like I said, that could have been a game changer, but it wasn't given.
Maybe it's the sort of thing that you get as a home team. I don't know. Maybe you get it less as an away team. So let's move on to the second half. So massive talking point, Dan. So we had 3 subs at halftime. Ben came on for Corey. Horsfall came on for Bate, and then Wootton came on for Fevrier. What did you think of those 3 changes?
It's a bit weird because, like I say, all the subs came out during half time. Ben had gloves on, was doing a heavy warm up, but he had a bib on. it was clear you could see Wootton and Horsfall coming on because they had their shirts on, no bibs, and they were really going through the paces. So you thought, right, they're definitely coming on. And there was 2 changes, but I did not expect Ben to be coming on at half time. Then we sort of think, well, obviously it's an injury or something like that. Is that why Corey's coming off? But I suppose he's just lost his rag as such, we only see, like I've said before, we only see 5% probably of the players on a match day. Yes, it's the most important 5% of the week when they play games, but obviously Dave's with his players day in, day out on a training pitch when they're not on training, in hotels. So he sees what goes on and the environment and everything like that. And he's obviously not been happy. So the game plan or errors, especially if they've worked at stuff at training and it's just gone completely out the window and people have not picked up their man, he's obviously not happy. He wants a reaction. And that's what's happened. So, yeah, caught everybody off guard. I don't think there'll be any one county fan that said, oh, I knew that was going to happen, because, that was completely a shock to the system.
So obviously, I didn't know how we were going to line up when I saw those substitutions. I think Bailey went into midfield, played alongside Norwood. Obviously, we still had Alafi on the pitch at that point and Barry. So it was probably, it's difficult to say. Was it a 5-5-3? I don't know, a 5-2.
It was more
2-3. I mean,
3 at the back, definitely still with your
with Connolly as the right wing back and Torre as the left wing back. And this is my problem, okay, with our current identity. I'm going to get it out there now, that the identity that we had when we were playing our flying wing backs with Rydell and Macaulay Southern Hales, that was a really attacking sort of 3-5-2 or whatever we were playing, 3-4-3 sort of formation. What we've found ourselves with these injuries is that we've got a very defensive left wing back in Torre. Doesn't do a lot wrong, don't get me wrong, and he gets the odd decent cross in, but he ain't going to hit the byline for us. And then you've got Connolly, who ended up playing as the right wing back on the other side. He's probably even more defensive minded. I think he shuffled him into central midfield a little bit as well. He almost inverted him a little bit at times. Yeah. But I've got to ask you guys whether, was this something that Dave has been practicing in training, or was it a knee-jerk reaction to him not getting what he wanted on the pitch? Steve, I mean, do you think they have practiced that team or not?
No, without that. I mean, me and my lad were watching it, and I think our biggest issue at the moment, and we all know as Stockport fans, the lack of Macaulay and Kyle Noah on the right. We've struggled all season. I don't know, we're 12 games in now, and Mingy was doing a great job, but then he seems to be injured every other week at the moment. For me, Connolly is not a right wing back. I'm sure he's never played that in training. He's a right central. He can play right centre back. He can play CDM. And me and my lad were talking at one point in the second half, because we had nothing going down the right hand side in that second half. We couldn't progress down the pitch because there was just too defensive. We were far too defensive. And we said, well, I think we should bring Jack Diamond on, put him at right wing back, and put Connolly into CDM. And he actually then, literally a minute later, he put Connolly into CDM and put Bailey out onto right wing back. So it's kind of seen it wasn't working, but I think we were 60 odd minutes in by this point, maybe even more. It could have been more. But it's like you say, you've got 5 players there who are just really defensive. And it's not Connolly's fault. He's just not a right wing back. It's simple as that for me. So in kind of answer to your question, I feel it was a bit knee jerk, and you took Fevrier off, who could have played that right wing back position, played it last season, didn't say most of the season. I know he doesn't like it, but I don't know. It seemed like a big mistake to me. It seemed like the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, Fevs was the more sacrificial lamb to the slaughter one out of that them substitutions. You can understand why Corey may do, and coming off and wanting to bring Horsfall on as well. And I thought actually the second half, until we conceded that goal, I thought we actually seemed to sort of nullify Lincoln a little bit in that second half. Some might say, oh, we were playing for the draw and stuff like that, but we stopped them having a threat as such. And I think that's probably why he was probably more upset with the goal that we conceded for them to take the lead. It's like I say, it is a tricky one. Like I said, there's a lot of players that we've brought in on loan as well. That for them, Teo and Tyler, they weren't even in the squad. That can play obviously on them sides. We're going to have, we've said before, or Dave said before, over the next few weeks in certain games, we'll start seeing Rydell and Macca get some game time in obviously the cup games. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I just felt, for me, coming away, I just thought we lost that. With Powell off the pitch, we lost that bite in midfield. That we miss a terrier in there. We miss somebody that's just a rash, that whoever picks up the ball is just there on them and puts the pressure on them. And I don't think we've got that player. And if you go back in the years, I'm talking about like a Marsden type player, a Tony Dinning type player, even a Paul Turnbull type player. Not the most skillful, accurate prices. Some might say a Crowsdale type player, but we just miss that, somebody who just hurries them and scurries them and is biting at ankles and wins you the ball back and passes it 2 yards and just keeps it going and moving. And that's what, for me, we sort of miss that in that midfield bite at the moment.
But if you're going to have a terrier in the team, I can't see you having that in a 2-man midfield. The way that it stands with the other midfielders that we got round us, Camps is obviously a Swiss Army knife of a midfielder. He can do it all. But if you've got Norwood as your other midfielder and you stick a terrier with him, is that going to work? Is there going to be enough with those two? Or is there enough legs with Norwood? I always feel that Bate is already covering the spaces that Norwood isn't covering because he hasn't got the legs. And I just feel that Dave needs to, I don't know, with the players that we currently have, with the injuries that we currently have, with our flying fullbacks, wing backs, I just think we've got to go with 4 at the back and say, okay, well, we'll go with the 4. Toure, you defend. Connolly, you defend. And then we'll stick in, I don't care whether it's Hughes or Horsfall. I prefer Horsfall and Pye. Then go with a 3-man midfield. So you're helping Norwood out there. He's not covering as much space. And then you 3 up front, whether that's a 1-2 or sort of wingers with Wootton. I don't know. I don't really care. But I just think a 4-man defence is probably going to get the most out of this team. So Steve, one thing I've been thinking of, okay, and I think this is the first time, I'm going to ask if you agree with me or not. It's the first time that I haven't got a clue what our identity is. Okay. Can you tell me what our identity is? So if I was to say to you, Steve, I've never seen Stockport County play. I'm an alien. I've just come down from outer space. Okay. You tell me how Stockport County play.
Yeah, no, you can't. We know what it should be. We know what Dave says it should be. But at the moment, it's not that. It's like we're still finding our feet 12 games in. I don't know what it is at the moment. And, injuries haven't helped at all. We've had a lot of injuries. We've had a lot of injuries in key positions. We are missing Camps. That's for certain. He, for me, has been our best midfielder this season. I think he's been excellent. I think we're missing the kind of forward runs of Will Collar as well. And we know the identity should be the press, it should be the intensity. We know that, but at the moment I'm watching these games and I'm not seeing that. I didn't see it against Wigan, I didn't see it against Northampton, I'm not seeing it yesterday. I do feel if we can get the right players back and the attacking players in the right positions, I feel like we can get that identity back, but at the moment it's not there. It's not there at all.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's a bit of a hard one. Like you said, the players that are missing are big players. Will Collar, we know what he offers by sort of like them runs between the lines to break defences down. At the moment, we're same again. We're not getting beyond to the byline and pulling it back enough. We're not beating defenders and getting through. Louis, in all fairness, in that game, I think he's getting better with his distribution. I know there's been obviously Dave's made comments and you, Jimmy, have said that his assist rates and he's not passing the ball. But I will say that at Lincoln he was making an effort, and there was one clear chance for Wootton to put it in the back of the net for an equaliser late on, and that was all set up from Louis Barry and the good work that he was doing. So, if I say it's a bit of a weird one, Mingy. Mingy was brought in, I think, as well as a defensive midfielder. I would like to see him in that role because I think he will be hurrying, scurrying. I think Carl Noyle offers us something better than what Connolly offers us as a right-sided defender or as a right back or a white wing back. So yeah, the players that we're missing, are going to offer something. Mellon's getting a bit more game time, and every time I see him, I'm more excited about him as well.
I was pretty impressed with that Bailey Cadamarteri. I think he's Danny Cadamarteri's son.
He is, yeah.
I'm sure we were linked with him in the pre-season. I'm sure I saw some sort of thing saying, "Oh yeah, we might be in for him." I don't know if he's on loan or not, or whether they've actually signed him. But how rapid was he? I mean, we can't let Odin Bailey escape this podcast without talking about that corner that he took in the second half. He underhit it. Bailey Cadamarteri intercepted it. Absolutely. And it was the first half, wasn't it?
First half, yeah. It was after the penalty.
Yeah. Absolutely skinned bait. And Corey, in fairness to him, he made himself nice and big, came out quickly and forced Bailey Cadamarteri to stick it past the post. So I thought that was good, in fairness, from Adai. I just wanted to say one last thing on the Adai thing, if we got time for it. Now, when we signed him, I was super excited. I was thinking, great, we're getting an amazing ball-playing goalkeeper here. Pre-season, he seemed to be doing all sorts of things, Cruyff turns and little passes. Over the last 5 or 6 games, he has stopped that. So you're left with a goalkeeper that isn't claiming crosses, that isn't commanding his area particularly well. I don't believe there's much going on in relation to speaking to his central defenders. His distribution hasn't been good, so he hasn't been making those slightly more dangerous sort of passes. And when he does hit it forward, it tends to be quite easy to defend. It's like a looping type of clearance. So I just think that all that together, and his shot stopping hasn't been great. He's not necessarily been pushing stuff around the post and stuff. Apart from him being huge, 6'8", I can see why Dave maybe has got a little bit frustrated and has thought, well, Ben can do this, he can do that. He's a great shot stopper, and his distribution is probably just as good as Adai's as it is at the moment. Am I talking bollocks there, guys? Or Dan, I mean, do you want to comment on this? I don't know whether you think I'm being unfair.
No, it's like I say, the sniff test and the visual test are two different things. When Ben came on, you could tell straight away that he was recycling and moving that ball a lot quicker.
Good point. Yeah,
was
definitely.
And trying to up the tempo. It's brilliant playing out in the back and stuff like that. But I felt that the tempo was just slowing down, and the slower it got, the better that Lincoln looked. To be honest, what Ben did give us is a bit of urgency. As soon as he got it, he was putting it out.
He was throwing it as well, wasn't he? He was throwing it a lot more than Adai was. He was looking at his overarm little throws, getting the movement going again. Yeah.
So same again, just speeding the tempo up, trying to get us on that front foot. Was that the reason why Corey came off? I don't know. But yeah, Ben did offer us something. Something like that. Corey will be, a good goalkeeper. He is a good goalkeeper, and he will be number one. And it's for me, it's quite clear out in Pinatar. Corey and Ben shared a room together in Pinatar. Corey is Ben's biggest number one fan, and Ben is Corey's number one biggest fan. After the game, the first player on the pitch was Corey to give Ben a hug and shake his hand for his performance in the second half. There is no sort of, it's not like a hate rivalry. There's two good goalkeepers that are backing and pushing each other to be better goalkeepers. Is that Ben's shirt now to keep for a couple of games with the cup games coming up? It might be. We might now see Ben in the goal for most of November. But Corey will be back and Corey will be better for it as well.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, let's just very quickly run through the second half stats because they were surprisingly far more in our favour. We had 62% possession, they had 38. Our XG was 0.59 to their 0.27. And you mentioned that Wootton chance earlier that from the Barry sort of cutback. That was a 0.24 XG. Kyle also had another chance where I think he was put through by Barry, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
He was sort of slightly to the left of the goal and he ended up hitting it at the goalkeeper where I think a little dink would have done. I don't know if anybody saw the Rasmus Højlund goal against Brentford on Match of the Day at the weekend, but it was exactly the same position in the penalty box, but Rasmus Højlund, the £70 million striker, managed to dink it over the goalkeeper, a little bit of a cuter finish. So we had 4 shots in total. They had 2. We had twice the number of passes, 199 compared to their 104. So, yeah, I think you're right, Dan. You said before that Dave would have been super frustrated at that second half because we did boss it second half.
Yeah, I said that I think the substitutions and the tactical changes he made at half time, we were the better. They were working. We were the better team in that second half, I felt. And that's how I felt. And I didn't just from one moment of sloppiness.
Yeah.
The second goal, which was, I think it's Ethan Pye's man that's got free.
You say it was sloppiness though, but if you actually look at it back, they've done that like block maneuver, haven't they? And I think it's almost Hughes that ends up blocking Pye because he's trying to get his man, and they're all spinning around and stuff.
Yeah,
and the guy that ends up heading it basically runs around this wall effectively that's made by their players. Very clever. Nothing wrong with it. Great header.
I think as a defending team, you'd be pulling out your hair. As an attacking team, you're slapping your backs because that's a training ground routine that's worked perfectly. But Sammy, we all know that they would have probably worked on that at training, and they probably know that, and they've probably drilled it all week and looked good at it.
Don't get caught in that. Yeah.
And that's what I think the frustration. That's where the frustration bears from, because it's probably goals that they've conceded that they've actually worked on and talked about pre-match, and spent all week. Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, actually setting a game plan up. They've made the substitutions, big calls at halftime, absolutely massive calls at halftime. To change your goalkeeper if he's not injured. And like I said, we looked comfortable, to be honest. I thought we really did. And then, we were creating chances with, still another substitution to use, because obviously Nick Powell in the first half, and then the 3 at half time, we still got one sub, which obviously was Mickey Mellon coming on for Tanto. And we still had something to, a draw minimum, I was thinking, before they scored that goal.
So we're dropping down the table. We're now 12th. We have got 18 points. Barnsley in 7th have got 22. We still have a game in hand on them. And then the relegation places, the dreaded R word, 10 points, Cambridge United. So, yeah, we're 8 points above relegation. So, Steve, having seen 12 games now, are you happy with our current position in the table? Do you think we should be worried of being sucked down into that relegation zone? Or
I'm absolutely fine with where we are. My kind of the start of the season, I'd be happy for anything 12th or above. That's kind of what I wanted this season. With a nice chance for the playoffs. If I could get my wish, that's what I want. So I'm not worried about where we are. And the reason I'm not worried is because, as I said before, we played 12 games without our first and second choice right wing backs or right backs, and I think that's the biggest problem we've got at the moment. I think that's why we've just got a real lack of balance. So, and we know those guys are coming back soon. Or well, we know Carl Noyle isn't, but we know McCauley is. And I think we'll be fine. I really do. I think we'll be fine. And we've got, is it 6 home games in a row now? I think 2 of them might be cup games, but 4 league games. Well, let's see where we are after those 4 league games. We might take maximum points, but we might not win any. But let's wait and see. But it's absolutely fine for me at the moment. Absolutely fine.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, you're right. The game's coming thick and fast. We've got Reading at home on Tuesday night, so they had a good win, I think, at the weekend. Did they? I'm sure they won.
1-3 on the trot now, so they've good form. Yeah.
So they've found some good form. Fair enough. Yeah, Bristol Rovers, who were shit anyway, so they only beat them 1-0, so they can't be that good. Don't quote me on that when we lose on Tuesday. But yeah, you're right. So 4 home games in the league. Obviously, it can go one of 2 ways when you're at home. There's potentially more pressure playing at home, but then you got your own home fans behind you as well. So hopefully everyone can get behind them. Tuesday night, I'll be there. Steve, will you be there?
Oh yeah, I'm always there. Yeah.
You'll be there. Dan, you're obviously not there.
I'm not there, but my it's my lad's coming up. He's coming up on the train. It's half term down this way, so he's going to get the train on Tuesday afternoon and come up on the train, and he's going to get his granddad's picking him up from the train station, and then he's coming back on the train on a Wednesday morning. So as it's half term and he's 14 now, he wants to go county whenever I can't go county. So he's coming up for his first county game without me. So
okay, well, maybe it'll be a good luck charm, and if we win, that means that you can't come to any more games.
I was going to say you're putting a mockers on that. So yeah, no, it's what I say. I said, is that Tuesday night game now a must-win game? With dropping points, we've only picked up obviously 2 points in the last 3 games. Does that Tuesday night against Reading now turn into a must-win game?
Well,
I don't think it's a must-win game, but I think we'll see changes. I think he's got a license. He's got a license now to mess with the team, hasn't he? So I think we'll see.
Are we tinkering too much? This is the danger that you end up getting into when form isn't great, when results aren't great. You start tinkering, don't you? And then you almost start scratching around for, am I going to fall into what is going to be hopefully be my best team? Yeah. I'm sure Dave and the coaching staff aren't thinking like I'm thinking like that, but there will be method in their madness, whatever they choose to do. But yeah, okay. Well,
how many changes do you think will be made on Tuesday? Just a number of changes from the starting 11 on against Lincoln. Because I reckon there'll probably be 4 changes at least.
Well, if you talk about Powell and Hinchliffe, well, Powell going out, obviously, and Adai going out, that's 2 to start you off, isn't it? So I'm not sure Bailey's done enough to stay in the side. Obviously, he had a good half against somebody or other when he came on with Powell.
Definitely agree.
And he sort of retained his position in the team from that. But I wonder how much of that is having Powell in the team with you as well. He just makes so many more players tick. It's not just him; it's what he does around him. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bailey dropping out the side, but we need Collar back in there. I think he is definitely missed for the endeavour. And you said earlier, Steve, the forward runs that he does, he's pretty much our only midfielder that breaks the lines between the midfield and the attackers, like gets in front of the attacker. Otherwise, everything is right in front of the defenders. Whether it's Barry running straight at them, whether it's Fevs on the other side or Diamond running straight at them, they're quite easy. They're easier to defend than what Collar does. Or you just have Powell playing an absolute worldy pass with the outside of his foot to Tanto to sort of stick in. But yeah, okay, well, we'll leave it there. We're at 45 minutes. So thank you, Steve, for coming on. I hope we'll get you on again in the future.
Yeah, I loved it. Who doesn't like talking about county? So yeah, loved every minute.
Yeah, and if you see me around Edgeley Park or anything, I'll probably be wearing a hat from now till April because I get very cold head and very cold ears. So I will be wearing my blue hat, not a county hat, but a blue hat. So say hello to me.
Will do.
Shout for anybody else as well. If anybody sees me or Dan or any of the team, say hello. And yeah, I think we'll leave it there. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Steve. And yeah, I'll see everybody soon.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Scarf Bagara War. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Remember, you can catch us every week on your favourite podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. And a huge thank you to all of our Patreon members. Your contributions help keep the show running to bring the content you love. If you'd like to support the podcast and get access to exclusive special guest episodes, ad-free podcasts and a monthly giveaway, head over to patreon.com/the Scarf Bagara War. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates, behind the scenes content and more. You can find us on X, Facebook and Instagram, all at County Podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review and share it with your fellow County fans. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Scarf Bagara War. Come on, County!